So I moved here after my PhD. I knew some people in the Bay Area, but other than that, I moved to the other side of the world almost. I had no family in the US. I had only very few friends, and I was working at a large corporation, and my colleagues were nice. I got along with them well, but there wasn't like really a lot of real connection and friendship. And given how much time my work consumed, there was not too much opportunity for that outside of work, of forming connection, of making friends. And I was just like very lonely. And things improved a little bit after I switched my job, but in April of 2017, I was just like, because I was feeling so lonely, I was feeling my life is shit at this point. Like I don't feel well, and like there's a whole backstory. Like I've been struggling with depression for almost my entire life. Sometimes better, sometimes worse, and at that point it really was worse. And I felt like I also have really nobody here to really open up to share myself. So I started seeing a therapist, crazy expensive therapist, but I was really so desperate that I didn't mind paying like $500 an hour for this therapist. Things got better for a little while until they didn't. Like I made some work. I did some exercises to decrease my social anxiety, like going out on the street and just approaching strangers. But I hit I plateaued at one point, and then I slowly regressed, and things got worse again. And I did some more of that, but it was really like the money I spent on therapy was really becoming insane. And also my therapist himself, he said like, how much money you spend on that, it doesn't really make sense given how much you get out of it. And he knew Dr. Aziz from his time training at Stanford with David Burns. I think my therapist and Dr. Aziz, they overlapped for a short while. I don't think they're like in touch or anything, but he remembered it from him from back then, and he also knew that Dr. Aziz was doing the seminars in Portland, and he said like such a weekend seminar is basically what you need. It will be like you will get a lot of exposure, just going out on the street and talking to people or talking to people at the seminar, and like for way less money than you're paying me. So what I wanted to do is like look when his next seminar is and kind of sign up and commit to going there. What was really nice at this event, it being my second event, I had really the direct comparison to the first event. And like for me, it was not only about what I learned at the event, but just the event itself is like it's a very anxiety-inducing situation for me. Like lots of people that I don't know, and kind of like these situations. I mean, when Aziz is up there on stage and talks, it's just fine. When you get together in small groups to do some exercise, it's a little bit more uncomfortable. But honestly, like the scariest thing for me are always the breaks. Kind of like being out there in the break, and kind of like the fear of just standing alone in a corner somewhere and not having anyone to talk to. And that fear was not really justified at the first event already, because I felt like people were just like very nice and open and would approach you because everybody knew why they were there. Everybody was there for a reason, knew how it felt to be in that situation, and was like kind of like open to welcoming people into their group and into their conversations. But now at the second event, and I have to like really one by one comparison to the first event, just how different I approach the whole thing. Like when I see somebody I want to talk to, I just walk up to them and introduce myself and ask them a question. Like I feel I was in the passive role at the first event, and now this event I'm really kind of like taking the active role and kind of like becoming almost like the master of my experience at this event and deciding what I want to do. The thought of somebody watching, like some stranger on the internet watching me right now and talking about my life, it's still scary, but it also I just feel good about being able to share my story and to potentially inspire people and help people getting out of this like social anxiety like slump. And And it feels almost exhilarating a little bit, and I just could not have imagined that 6 months ago. And it's just like it's very powerful and like just altogether great feeling. It was only 2 weeks ago when I talked to a coworker of mine, and a coworker of mine who I'm fairly close with, who's a friend of mine, and she was telling me, "You're blossoming," and that was like basically in the past 6 months, and that was pretty much like when I first went to the first event. I don't think anyone has ever made a statement like that in my life. Like I've tried to work on all that self-help stuff before. I got like lots of self-help books. I listened to podcasts and so on. I did psychotherapy and like cognitive behavioral therapy, and like some things improved here and there, but I don't think it was ever like to an extent that somebody would say something like that to me. And here at the event, I got that confirmation from many people. Many people said like, wow, it's so amazing to see how you show up now to this event compared to the first event. And like really, like how I feel is one thing, and there's a lot of satisfaction I get from how I like just feeling differently, but also getting this external validation from other people, which I don't want to make my life dependent upon, but it's still like really a very great testimonial about like how this stuff is really working.